Okay, we're in this beginning the second parak Masechta Nedarim and Daf Yud Gimel. We spoke about in the first parak the kinuyim. We spoke about yadais, and we spoke about hatfasa, to be matfis, to go ahead and make a neder, compare it to something else. By the comparison to something else, that creates what? That creates the neder. By comparing to something else, that's called, yeah, and that neder has to be in a dava hanadar. It has to be in something that itself was created al yedei neder, right? If it was something that's created by an isser, not by neder, you didn't create it. Then what? Then it would not be a good neder. It would be mutter. Good. So we saw examples of it. We saw comparisons to kid. This parak is going to deal with the beginning at least, but the davar asa. In other words, I'm going to say something, compare it to a davar asa, and therefore it's not a good neder because the thing you compare it to is not what is not asa. We're going to see it's a machlokas rishonim as to why, even though it's a gezeres hakasef. Says the Mishnah, the elu mutarim, and these are nedarim that are mutar. Chulin shaychlecha. If a person says this kiko should be like chulin, obviously that seems to be a double pashit. The Gemara is going to say that it's only brought in agav the other ones. Chulin shaychlecha kibasa chazir. This kikar should be, this object should be like basa chazir. It should be like what? It should be like the meat of a chazir. Ki avodas kechavim. It should be like a piece of avodah zarah. Avodah zarah, guys, is asa bahana. Ki oiros levuvim. The avodah zarah, what they would do is they would make a circle around the heart, the skin. They would take away the skin and they would pull out the heart while the animal was still alive. That's called oiros levuvim. Literally, the skin levuvim of a certain lave. It's also that's takruvas avodah zarah. That's even more chomer than avodah zarah, as we're going to see in the Ran in a second. Kinevelos utrefos. This kiko should be like nevela, be like a trefa. Kishkotzim uchirimashim. It should be like creepy callers. Kichalis avering we had early in the first parak, like chala, which is one of the matas kahuna. Ukutruma so like his truma, like it's certainly trumas hagoyrin, the truma that comes from the threshing floor. We even said it might be trumas lachmei toida. It's a machlokes. Certainly trumas halishka, the truma that comes, the separation of the coins. All these would be a davar asa, and therefore mutter. All these cases, fellas, it would be mutter. In all these cases, it would be mutter because, in fact, what it is not a davar hanadar. You did not create the thing al yedei neder. A final din in the Mishnah. A guy says to his wife, Hari at alai ki'ima. He's asking tashmis on himself. He's asking tashmis on himself like his mother. So your wife is to you like your mother. Then l'chayra, that's you're being nodar in dava. You're making a neder guys in a dava ha asa. The Torah asks his mother. So over here it doesn't say Pesach. Over here it doesn't say muta. It says you look for a Pesach l'makam acher. You should not be makel in performing such things. It should be makel in performing such things. Okay. So let's see the Ran. Let's see the Ran over here. Last thing. Hi dinokat, where it gets wide, very like 4 lines. Hi dinokat hariat kiima. Who are dinami b'matvis b'shari surya hana. Even if you would go ahead and say to your wife, "You're also me like any other." No. Like any surna, lav dafka that, but any surna. For example, all these are also bahana. Ubraisa nami tanya begamara hari atalai kibasa ima. You like the basa of my mother kibasa chaisi ka'arlo k'kleyakerem. So the brisa will also say lav dafka mother, but any surna. Elahai denoket kiima. That you said kiima is chada disbeitarti. You're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're telling me 2 things. Ashmin and chada. That afagad the matfis b'dava asar, right? Even though you're being matfis b'dava asar, guys, outside. Your mother is asar to you like a piece of chazer, and just like if you go ahead and make a neder in a piece of chazer, it's not a good neder because you didn't create the isser for your mother, the chazer. The Torah created the isser to your mother, Pashas Lachreimais, right? So in other words, why in fact would you need any to take it off? It should be mutter. You shouldn't have to do any shayla or anything. So the chiddush is ba'ama oretz midrabanan tzarich pesach. By an ama oretz, 2 things, and derabanan you need a pesach, meaning you need to take off the neder. You have to, in other words, even though this is not really a neder, in order to go ahead and and show the Amaretz that he shouldn't get used to making Nedarim, we go ahead and treat it as if it's a real neder, even though it's a davar rasa. We'll go through with it, that he shouldn't be accustomed to making Nedarim. So and the Pesach has to be from another source. Aval ain't, meaning it can't be had you known it's your mother's son. Aval ain't placing like becovered imoy. Klaimar. Either you see a day hey covered the imecha bekach. Let's say you're asking your wife yourself like your mother. Let's say your mother would hear you say such a thing, she'd slap you across the face, right? So it's not covered your mother. So you wouldn't be able to say, had I known my mother would have been affronted by this, I never would have made the neder. No, you have to go ahead and find another Pesach. It can't be the mother itself, right? Right. Let you see that the light tema nam nihid ain't paiskin loy adam becovered avivimai. Hanimila bin Nedarim deraisa. Aval hide the lesser element of banon. Of course, it's a davar rasa. That's the Rashba. He quotes the Ram was a Talmud of the Ritva. The Ritva was a Talmud of the Rashba, right? This is the Messiah. The Rashba was a Talmud of the Ramban. This is the Messiah of the great Sephardic Mishnayim. So therefore, the Chiddush over here is, even though it's only the Rabbanan in nature, and by an Amoretz, nonetheless you won't go ahead and have a Pesach from the mother itself. You'd have to find another source. Continues the Ran. In other words, dafka, when you want to go ahead and ask your wife on yourself. So people, what happens? The guy gets angry at his wife. It happens on rare occasions, right? It happens that, and what do you do? Not you what you do, but it was make a neder. I'm not going to live with you anymore. I'm not going to. So Bisman says it's okay. We have to see the divorce lawyer, whatever they say. But whatever a person says in a fit of anger. So to make a neder on your wife is not uncommon because of the hakpada that existed. Mitoch hakpada, v'shoreslei b'lei Pesach, and if you would permit him without a Pesach, kimatis b'davar asa l'mishinami afilu matis b'davar anodo. Pirish. Since it was common for a man to make a neder klapi his wife, if we let him get off the hook, if he compares it to his mother, which is a davar asa, what happens in the time we compare? I don't want to live like you, like a carbon, then it would be a real good neder. So to go ahead and make sure that when it comes to a real neder, you shouldn't take it off the hook. Even when it's not a real neder, we let you take it off the hook. So it's really a gezerah type of situation. Avol shan nedarim, the rest of nedarim that have nothing to do bein ish v'isha. It seems nedarim again. We're seeing this Masech to come upon him. It's a really difficult thing to make a neder, right? Like gazru behen, like gazru behen. Didn't make a gezeir in them. And therefore you don't need sheila. So in other words, the first din of the Mishnah. What's the difference between the first din and the latter din? The latter din of the Mishnah was dealing with your wife, and since it was common to go ahead and make a neder, clap at your wife. Even though you're making the neder in a mother, which is davar asa, we're worried that you make a neder connected your wife in a davar another, which would be asa. So therefore, we make you take it off, even though it's not a real neder. Says the earlier part of the Mishnah, you made it a davar. Why aren't we worried if you say that this kik is upon me like a chaza? Why aren't you worried to say this kik is upon me like a carbon? It seems because they didn't make nedarim. I'll tell you something fascinating that I had heard this, but I never saw it inside, and I never got the source for it. I heard they didn't learn nedarim. In other words, I asked at the beginning of the Sechta, it's not the normal Lashon, it's Mishuna, right? I pointed out a few occasions, about 3 occasions, where you see the Lashon of the Nedarim is Mishuna. And the Tais and the Tiferes Yisrael says in Masechta Kedushin, Masechta Erchin, he says that the reason why is that Ravina Rav Ashi, who edited the Gemara, they never went through it. They didn't go the second time or a third time. And therefore it wasn't done, and therefore it wasn't learned, because it seems to be. And the reason they didn't redo it is because they didn't want to learn the Nedarim. The Rav Haigon says they didn't learn the Nedarim. Again, I guess maybe they didn't want to have anything to do with Nedarim. I don't know, but it seems they didn't learn Nedarim. It's very interesting. Again, here you see over here from the Ran, he says what. The Nedarim it wasn't common to make Nedarim. Okay, so what do we see from the Mishnah? That if a person goes ahead and asks his wife like his mother, he'd have to go ahead, if he's an Amoretz, he'd have to find what Bisman Hazeh not Mizvah. He'd have to find a Pesach and not Pesach from his mother. Now, the other cases, but all the other, there's a Chiddush. Ron goes, you'll see it around yourselves that if you want to, why you had to tell me each one. What's the Chiddush of Chazer versus Avik Achav versus Levuvim? Each one is a Chiddush that the other one doesn't have. Says the Gemara. The reason why it's mutter, because he says that I eat from you should be chulin. That I eat from you should be chulin. That seems to be a double portion. Now, why haven't we say ha'ama lach chulin shaykh lecha? But we saw in the first paragraph, what does lach chulin mean, guys? Loy lechulin. So now let's figure out. It should not be chulin what I eat from you. What should it be? It should be hegdish, right? And that would be asa. Yet it doesn't say that. So now, mashma loy lechulin lahave el korban money masnisan irad meya halesle mechal lavat shmeihen. Meya says you need to tie kafel like right b'nei Gad b'nei Reuven. You have to speak out the other side. You don't make the inference. So lachulin also would not be right. So the Ella must be Rabbi Yehuda. So it must be, guys. Who's the Tan of our Mishnah? Who's the Tan of our Mishnah? It must be Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, now go back to Yud Amid Beis. Go back to Yud Amid Beis. Says the Mishnah on Yud Amid Beis at the bottom, 4 lines up. Ha'omer lachulin shaykh lecha loy kasha loy dachi tahor v'tamei noisu pigel asa ki'imra kedirim ke'etzim ke'ishim ke'mizbeach ke'heichel ke'shalayim neder be'ach mikom b'shashma after shlehiska carbon. How you say neder the carbon? Rabbi Yehuda ha'omer Yerushalayim le'mekom. You don't say without a chaf. We zetstein this whole Mishnah according to Rabbi Yehuda. We zetstein this whole Mishnah according to Rabbi Yehuda. Right? It was all one statement. Good. Now, so Fred the Gemara, Vel Rabbi Yehuda, Hainu Reisha. So what's the chiddush? You just on Yud, you told me that din already. You're repeating the din. It says, I need a tani kibasa chazer karbezes kachavim lachi ktani chulin. In other words, why are you repeating the din of chulin? Hainu Reisha. It's Rabbi Yehuda, and the answer is you learned chulin agav the other ones, meaning there is no chiddush in chulin. Since the chiddush is in chazer, the chiddush is in the vela, the chiddush is in the kachavim, and you learned chulin agav the other ones, but there's no inherent chiddush or diak to be made from chulin. No diak to be made. Ravina Amar Hachi Kotani. No, there is a chiddush. The elu mutarim kichulin. These things are mutar like chulin. What are they? Kibas chazer, kabes kachavim. The ilay tana chulin. And if you didn't learn the first statement of chulin, havamina boy she'ela. I would think you have to go ahead, Rad, and even though like the sefer, like by the woman, you have to take it off, correct? But by making comparison to what? To chulin, you're telling me no, you don't have to take it off. Just like chulin, there's no havamina that it's a good neder and you have to take it off. Hu adin basa chazeg, ovis kechavim, ovis levuvim, nevelish, trefish, kachim, ramasim. There's no havamina what that you have to take it off. That's only by isha and only by the comparison to the mother. But you only know that what from the fact that it says like chulin. Says the Gemara. Could that enter your mind? 1 second. Hamidiktani Sefer. When we first introduced the Sefer, fellas, why would you think that you need she'ela when you say kibasa chazer? There's no. It's not a davar hanodar. It's a davar asa. Where do you first find out that such a thing called she'ela? You find it out in the sefer of the Mishnah, where we say you go ahead and ask your wife on you like your mother. Then, even though your mother's davar asa, and really it's not an eda, but to go ahead and make a gezerah that you may do it in the future by a davar another, we stop it. So we're introducing there in the sefer. So it can't be the possibility that these are like chulin. That's like chulin doesn't need she'ela. This doesn't need she'ela. You'd never think they need she'ela. Why should they need she'ela? It's a davar asa. Ella, what do you have to say? Mechavarta, it's correct, it's clear. Chulin and melin is not naspa. Chulin is learned agav the other ones. In other words, there is no inherent chiddush in chulin. The whole chiddush is in kibas achas. Now, how do you know this? How do you know this? Then of davar another davar. If I wake you up in the middle of the night, you never learn Masechet Nedarim. You say this is us to me like chaza. You'd say asa. It's a chiddush nifla, right? It's a chiddush nifla. So where do you know this from? It says Omar Kradapus says ish kiyida neder lesser yisal lashem lesser yisal nafshe. Right? That's what the pasuk says. Now it says the double lashon linda neder at sheyida b'davar hanadar. Until you go ahead and you make your neder in a davar hanadar. It's a pasuk. It's exeres a kosef. At sheyida b'dava hanada. So you make a neder in a dava hanada. That's what it says. He says if that's the case, afilu b'dava asanami daksiv lesa Yisrael nafshay. If it's the double lashon that does it, it says also lesa Yisrael nafshay. So it says in the Gemara, lesa Yisrael boy leilachidetanya. I need that for a different din. Eza issa ha'ama v'Torah. What's the issa that it says in the Torah? Lesa Yisrael al nafshay. In other words, I think we learn it out that even if it's the issa that's only to a certain individual, even though it's only to yourself, it's not to everybody, right? Look at the Ran, the first very wide line. The Tanya, Eza Issa, the second line, Ashminon, the Afagav, the Tali Nidroi, Bineda, Shlein Eser, Ella, Loy Levadoi, the Hainu Yom Shemei by Aviv. What's the case of Isser? The case of what? We had it earlier in the first parak, guys. You went ahead and you said, this day should be like the day that my father passed away. I should be ushering Yayin like this day, correct? Now, the day that your father passed away is what? It's a Dava Hanadar, correct? But only to you. I would think maybe to be a what lesser Isser. I would think to be it has to be universal. So lesser Isser means lesser Isser al nafshay. Even it's only Usser on your nefesh, but nobody else is Usser. So Memela, since I need it for that, I don't have an extra to teach me what? Lesser Isser. I don't have it to teach me lesser Isser. So we have a concept that we introduced in the first parak. Interesting enough, we first learned the reason over here. The reason why you need a dava another because it's linda neder. It's very interesting. It's exeris akasiv, but there are rishonim to come up with reasons. We're going to see a machloikas now. Let's see the machloikas thing, the Ran and the Ritva, as to why you need to be matfis your neder in a dava another. So despite the fact that it's exeris akasiv, we're going to look for a reason behind it. The reason why, when I make a neder, do I have to say this is also like a carbon? This is also like something that I asked it through a neder, not as opposed to what? Something that is also by itself. So the Ran is found on with the first medium where the lines are very thin, and it's 2 lines up where the lines get wide. It says it's a svara de mafis b'davar asalechal the bishlema b'davar hanadar matzilat fusei. A dava another, something you created through a neder. You can go ahead and compare to it. The loymar, kikar zeh, this loaf of bread, Allah is upon me, the neder, the korban sheneser al yadi neder. In other words, this is usher upon me like the korban. That, in other words, you're taking a neder now and saying, I'm usher on like this, like I made usher on this. Only by a dava another can you make that statement. This piece of bread is usher upon me like a neder, just like I made this carbon usher al yidei neder. Again, one more time. The bishlema b'dava hanadar matzilat fusei v'loymar b'kikar ze alai b'neder v'carbon sheneser alai b'neder. Avaki matfis b'dava rasa loy klum kama. What are you saying? This piece of bread should be us upon me like I asked the chaza. You didn't ask the chaza. This piece of bread should be us upon me like avodah zara. You didn't ask the avodah zara. The heichi lemema kikas are like basa chaza. Layefsha. Why? The basa chaza asira rachmana. The Torah asked it. But who lo asked it? So it seems to be the Ran holds, guys. The Ran holds. We're almost finished. No, I'm not kidding. The Ran holds, guys, that how does the nether work by hatfasa? This is us. I'm making this usher upon me, just like I made the carbon usher upon me. And any dava another that it's usher upon me, like I made this usher upon me. Go to chaza. This is upon me, like I made the chaza usher upon me. You didn't make the chaza usher upon you. The Torah did. That's the svar of the Ran. So that's the reason why it has to be in a dava another, not a dava rasa. Okay, I put out. You look at your. I have there's 2 things over there. Look at the ritva. Look at the ritva. I'll put it up over here. It's the first one I sent out. This is a fascinating svara. A really fascinating svara of the ritva. work? Oh. Okay, the bottom line on the right side, the time of the milsa, the bottom line on the right side. Got it, guys, with time of the milsa? The time, what's the reason why you have to go ahead and make a neder in the dava hanadar? Good? Mishum, the chaza unavela, ein gufay asar iser cheftza. The chazer and the vela, they're not an iser cheftza. Elisha adam asal achlan. Guys, when you say something is a chaza, right? You don't have it? What? There's one before it. It was deleted? It was deleted? Okay, I'll send it out. Okay, let me just stop the. What?
Today? I should be busy with my birthday today, November. Your birthday today? You don't make a barbecue? Where's the meat? Thursday night. Something fun, did it? No.
I have it now?
Yeah.
Okay, bottom right. Bottom right. The timer the milsa. What's the reason why, guys? What's the reason why you can't make a neder in a dava ha'asar? The time milsa mishum the chazer unavela ein gufa masa is the cheftza. Chazer and nevela are not innately themselves asar. Elisha adam asal achlon. You're asar to eat them. Then kain koinem dahave is the cheftza, a carbon which is an isser in the object. Heichi shaykh loimar sheyir isuroi kenevela. That this should be us like nevela. Nevela ain't isser begufa yoisa mehet the alma. In other words, if you say this piece of bread should be us upon me like chaza, what are you saying? You're saying chaza is not usher on you. You're usher on chaza. Guys, chaza is an issa gavra. It's not an issa cheftza. So you're going ahead. It's a tremendous lumdus. You're going ahead. What are you saying? You're saying the following. This piece of bread, I'm making a neder zasa, right? So this is cheftza. I want to asa the bread. Good. I'm comparing it to what? To chaza. But that you can't eat chaza is not because chaza is an issa cheftza. That you can't chaza because it's an issa gavra. It's also on you to eat it. It's not that it's not, again, there's two ways to look at chaza. Do I look at chaza that it's chaza treif? Or do I look at kenesh esen? It's a great longest, guys. It's a gavaldig.
You can't create an issue on yourself like Hashem created it.
Again, it's not true. Watch. Look what you're saying. This kikar, which is this chefza, should be usher upon me like chaza, which is this gavra. It's not really usher upon you. It's a chefza. This I need an issa chefza. It has to be this chefza and an issa chefza. So if you say that something's usher upon like a carbon was muta. How did the chefza of carbon become usher? You created it through your mouth. So therefore, you could say this kikar is usher upon me like a carbon. They're equal. The issa chepsa is on an issa chepsa. But if he's saying issa, something that the Torah said is usher, it's not pshat that the chepsa is usher. The God for your usher on it. That's the unbelievable, beautiful svara avad of the Ritva to explain the difference. So you have two mahalchim to go, guys. Yeah. Okay. Avodah zarah is Avodah zarah. It's an issa. Avodah zarah is an issa. The Torah says it's usher.
It's a chepsa though.
No, avodah zarah is what I mean. Avodah zarah is an issa gavra. In other words, it's this your asa to have enough in the avodah zarah. It's not the avodah zarah is asa, but enough. You can't have enough from it. It's an issa on the person. It's an issa on the person.
Use an example from
A carbon is issa chefza. A carbon you created issa. Anything that you create through your mouth. Anything that you create through your mouth. There's a very interesting shaila. This is a very interesting shaila. You said that your wife is us upon you like your mother, right? What about like an Eishes Ish? Aces ish is an is of kedushin. Maybe it has a din of a side of a
Oh,
carbon.
you're born into it.
Hari amu kudeshes li. No, it's not.
You're the one who makes.
You may she's us like head dish. So maybe it might be a tzad that might again. There's rate on that. There's rate on that. But again, this is a very nice machloikus in the Ran and the Ritva to explain again the reason why you need a dav another, because it says the pasuk is Linda Neder. But it's interesting. Both Rishonim come to explain. The Ritva is explaining. He's explaining that what are you saying? This should be us upon like me, like I made it asa, but you didn't make it asa. The Torah made it asa. And the Ritva is saying a different svara. He's saying in order to make a neder asa, it has to be an issa chepsa. Issa, the Torah puts the onus in issa gava. Very interesting svara. What? Then you there's no nafkamina. Then you're making a neder, there's a nafkamina. You can't eat either way. You can eat chaza, but can you eat chaza because you can eat chaza, or you can eat chaza because the chaza is asa on you? Now, what nafkamina is making the neder? If it's and then clearly, if it would be an issa chepsa, it would be asa. That's any dava hanoda is an issa chepsa because it was muta till you created the issa, right? Okay, very good. Geshmak svara between the Ritva and the Ran, very nice. Okay, ha'omer leishtay hariat alai ki'ima. You like your mother now. Uriminu hariat alai kibasa ima, like the boss of my mother, kibasa achaysi, boss of my sister. Orla, this is the Ram board. It's not dafka mother, but any Israhana, all of the first three years of a fruit-bearing tree is also bahana. Kleakerim, if you plant pita saira and geffen, is kleakerim is also bahana. Layoma klum. You didn't say anything. So why in the world do you have to go ahead and require sheila? You didn't say anything. Amar Abaya, layoma klum deraisa. You didn't say anything deraisa because it's a davar asa. It's a davar asa. It's sarach she'ela midrabanan, but you would need she'ela midrabanan. You need she'ela midrabanan. Rav Amar, ha b'talmidei chachamim, ha b'amaretz. It's a big difference. Okay, now our mission is speaking by an amaretz. That's speaking about a talmid chacham. If you're a talmid chacham, you don't need any she'ela. If you're an amaretz, you need she'ela. So our Mishnah that said you have to be shoyel, a person who asked his wife on himself like his mother, even though it's not loyam klum. No, it's really loyam klum. It's not the reason why you're an amaretz. Therefore, you need sheila. That would answer the question. Tanya guys is here is benichusa. Hanoid b'Torah. Someone makes a neder in Torah. Loy amaklum. Now, what happens over here? Hanoid b'Torah. He's saying this should be usher upon me like Torah. What does that mean? Nonetheless, we'll see the Gemara is going to fair rice. Loy amaklum v'amrav yachanan. And nonetheless, v'tzarach sheila l'chacham. You would what? You would need sheila l'chacham, and here we have the difference. Here we have the difference, the same difference from Rav Nachman. The talmid chacham ain't it tzarich sheila, and the talmid chacham doesn't need sheila. So that's the comparison that difference between amaretz and a talmid chacham. Just like by the Torah, so too by mother. That this difference. An amaretz may be prone to make another neder in a davar hanada, and therefore we take it off, and talmid chacham will not be, and we find the same concept by Torah. Now, what's going on Hanoid b'Torah? Is this a neder? Is a shul? What exactly is this? So look at the Ran on the Amid base. Hanoid b'Torah, kloima. Shenishba b'Torah, he swears in the Torah. The correlate Tana lenishba noider. This Tana is causing what? He's causing noider. He's calling a shvua a neder. Like I said before. So sometimes we call shvua a neder. So noider b'Torah here is speaking about what? Is speaking about a person who is making a shvua. The Torah is lying in front of him. In the name of this Torah, I won't do something. Yes, I will do something. Devar plani. Loya maklum. You know why? The daite agvilin kidamina b'samach. We know that there's the concept of a shvua holding a chefza shel mitzvah. Netilas chayfetz, taking a chayfetz, right? People, they take the bezdin, they put your hand on the Bible, you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth to help me God. It comes from the Torah. It comes from Avram Avinu was the first person to make a shvua. Where does he see? He made Eliezer take his hand, simlanach tachas yirechi. The only mitzvah he had was Mila. Milavim is a davar kedusha, so he made him put his hand under the place in the Nedarim Mila in order to make a shvua. That once we got a Torah, when a person holds a Torah and makes a shvua, what's he saying? He's making it. It's like being masked the shame. He's making it the shame, right? That's the whole. To go ahead and substantiate this to the extent you're telling the truth, right? Or that you're doing something, you take the tilas chayfetz. When you take it, what is the kedusha of the Torah? The parchment of the Torah or the words of the Torah? The words of the Torah, correct? Okay. When a person has a Torah lying in front of him and he makes a shvu on that and he's not holding it, his das stamasay is on the gevil. It's on the parchment. Parchment is not. It's not a davar asa. It's a shua. It's an isagavra. It's a shua. It's a shua. But again, his das is on the gevil. His das is on the parchment. So therefore, if someone makes a neder b'Torah, like we said in the Amav Loyama Klomel, you need shayla, is speaking. That's the scenario. It was lying in front of him. He made it a Torah. Why isn't it a good neder? Because he wasn't thinking about why isn't it a good shua, right? And a shua, guys, shuas are even on a davar asa. Shua is no chilik, guys. Shua is no chilik between davar and the davar asa. Of course, this is a guy. No difference. No difference. So now he made what? What? Oh, it's because I'm Aretz. What? No, I'm Aretz. He said I'm Aretz. But tzarich sheila is the V'omer of Nachman. The Talmud Chacham made it tzarich sheila. Bottom line, he doesn't need a sheila. Talmud Chacham doesn't need a sheila. The bottom line, Talmud Chacham does not need a sheila. Now we're going to have a brisa, and we're going to use a few lashonis. And the question is in his lashon. Is his das on the gevil or is das on the haskaras hashem? If his das is on the gevil, it's nothing. If it's haskaras hashem, it's something. Okay, now, so Tanya, I know the b'Torah lo yama klum b'masha kasava, but if he goes ahead, what and he says in that's written in it, then the of kayamim ba u'b'masha kasava in it, and what's written in it, the of kayamim. Now that would apparently be totally extraneous. If you told me it. So certainly it and what's in it. Says the Gemara, Katani b'mashakasa ba dvaru kayamim. You just told me if you say ba in it, umashakasa ba, that dvaru kayamim, that his words will continue to exist, meaning it's a shua. Ba umashakasa ba tzarich l'neimar. Ba. You go ahead. What does ba mean? In it. But it doesn't. You don't mean the gevil. You mean what? What's in it? So now ba umashakasa ba. What are you telling me that? Of course, the dvaru kayamim. Some Rav Nachman like kasha, hodim mancha araisa aara, hodim nakele biyade. One case is speaking where it's on the ground, and one case is speaking when it's in his hand. Now, what's the difference? Machdal ara daite agvila. If it's on the ground, his das is on the parchment. Naket la biyade daite alas kara sheba. So therefore. Where is it not a good shvua? That's where it's on the ground. Where it is a good shvua when he's holding it. Now, why would it's kind of weird to have a Torah on the ground? It's a bizayon, right? So take a look at the Mefarish over here. We'll go with the Mefarish. That's Rashi. Daiti agvili, dikeshenodar loinadar ella bigvilin shekosav behena Torah. The parchment that it's written on. Listen to this beautiful svara. The kivin shahaya roya isam menechas ala aretz, since he sees it lying on the ground, sava hoyel menechas ala aretz vaday in kosova. Vaday, there's nothing written in it. Who would put a sefer Torah on the ground? So when he sees a rolled up scroll on the ground, you know what he thinks? And das is it's a piece of parchment on the ground. Therefore, well, svara, right? Therefore, layam klum. Avli ama ba ubemasha kasa b'saycha. So in other words, what's that teretz? Ba, if it's on the ground, is nothing. Ba masha kasa ba, even if it's on the ground, because what's he saying? He's getting on a different lashon. Ba in it in the gevil, masha kasa ba. So obviously, then it's a good. So in answer to the question, one says ba, one says masha kasa ba. Ba, where isn't it good? It's on the ground. Ba masha kasa ba is where he's holding it, right? Right. And even if it's on the ground, it will make a difference. Excuse me. If ba, if it's on the ground, no good. Ba, if he's holding it, good. Bo mashakasa, but even on the ground would be good. Bo mashakasa, even on the ground would be good. That's Rav Nachman's first teretz. Diba Yasema, another teretz. The Machdal Ara, it's both speaking. It's on the ground. In other words, guys, the way we're learning a brisa to say the first teretz is the brisa is speaking about two cases. One he's holding, and one is on the ground. right? It's a little schwer to have the brisa speaking in two different cases. It's much better to be in one signal. So therefore, it's both speaking machta al ara. The after of the machta ara, him the oma b'masha kosaba mahani. It helps. B'suvein tzarich alem b'zukatani. So b'ma helps, and certainly b'ma masha kosaba helps. B'ma helps, and certainly masha kosaba helps. The last line, it's kulinami dinakale biyade. The last line, but bo masha kosaba is holding in his hand, and he says bo, it doesn't work. Welcome, Ashman. The key with the dinakale biyade, since he's holding in his hand, afagav loy amar elaba kimanda amar b'masha kosaba. You read the last line like this. It's not two separate cases. Here's the way you read it. It says ba u'masha kosaba. He's holding in his hands ba, and he only says ba. It's as if he says b'masha kosaba. This is a little funny. Let's go to the. I put a chart out. I sent the second chart out. Maybe you got that one. Let's see, and this will be a very good. Oh, I got the wrong one. This makes no sense. I don't have to get rid of this. I'm trying to get rid of this. I don't know why this is not coming up. Okay, I can't seem to get the screen. I'm sorry, it's over there. I bet it's not. I wish I knew what I was doing here. And I'm sorry. I have a chart over here, but you won't be able to read it anyway. But it's here. If you have, guys, you have your phones. If you have your phones, what? It's on the screen.
On the phone.
It's on the phone. If you have your phones, take out your phones, and we'll do it on the phone. I can't seem to get it on the screen.
It did show up on the screen while you were playing with it twice.
Oh no, but not that chart. It showed up. It
Yeah.
showed What?
For the next Mishnah. A chart for the next Mishnah.
no.
Nedarim, Amud Bey.
What showed up on the next chart? What showed up there? Huh? No, I want to know what showed up on the chart. I have to
It
get
says Nedarim Yadalit Amud Beis. And it's Reb Nachman and the Teretz Beis and Teretz Gimel. Right?
Yeah, you have that on your screen.
Yes. It came
Okay.
up on the screen and that's what you sent us out at
Okay.
5:50.
Okay, so let me try it again then. So that's what you see? You're seeing that screen?
Yes, and that's what we have on the phone.
Okay, great. Okay, so if you look, there's three possibilities across the top. Ba, Masha ba, and then Ba Masha ba. Okay, so now, Rav Nachman, according to, it makes a chilik between Munechas Ba'aretz and Achusis Biyadai. By Ba, it doesn't mean anything. By Masha ba, if it's on the ground, also doesn't mean anything. But if it's in your hands, then it's Dvar Kayamim, and everyone would hold the last column is Dvar Kayamim. That's a given. The second teretz, it's speaking. It's on the. It's speaking both cases. It's on the ground because you want to be consistent. And both cases, it's like Ba is Layam Klum because you think there's nothing in it. However, if you say B'Masha Ba, then Dvar Kayamim, and certainly Dvar Kayamim. The last teretz is speaking where. Again, you divided it up. You're speaking, you're holding it, or you're holding it in your hand, and it's Dvar Kayamim. And the only chilik would be if you say Ba. Once you say Ba, it's as if you say Ba and Masha Ba. That would be the. Okay, great. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. I appreciate it.